Before we move on to the video, I have a small request from you. I sincerely say, welcome. To support us, could you please like this video? Thank you in advance. There is a company in the world that you can't even imagine. It's truly unbelievable. Now imagine this. Think about Apple. Think about Microsoft. Think about Amazon. Think about Saudi Aramco. Now combine all of them in your imagination. Add up their total market value. Even then, it still doesn't reach the value of this company. And do you know what the most unbelievable part is? The company we're talking about is about 400 years old. When we usually talk about capitalism, huge fortunes, and old money, names like the Rothschild family come to mind, the Rockefellers come to mind, J.P. Morgan comes to mind. But for some reason, almost nobody talks about this mind-blowing company that came out of the Netherlands. But this company established the first corporate tradition in the world, became the first company to create the stock exchange, became the first company to go public, created the very beginning of modern capitalism. In fact, the influence of this giant company still continues today. So hold on to your excitement and get ready for takeoff. Today, I'm going to take you through one of the most fascinating, interesting, and powerful stories in history. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, and its major supporter, the House of Orange. First, let's go back to the year 1580. When we arrive in that time period, the first thing we see is Spain taking Portugal under its control. Basically, two massive powers are coming together. Do you know what that means? Spain and Portugal become one united force. They own almost all territories in Asia, Africa, and the Americas. They become the masters of the seas. When the Dutch see this, they understand the danger and start panicking, because during that time, the Netherlands was actually tied to Spain, and they were fighting to gain independence. But now, they are not only facing Spain, they are also facing Portugal. So now the enemy count becomes two, and the Dutch realize something very clearly. We can't fight these people with weapons alone. And here comes one of the strongest moves in history. The Dutch introduce a brand new invention. This weapon is not something sharp. It's not explosive. It's not a huge army. This weapon is actually something legendary and mind-blowing. Capital. In 1602, 7 different trading companies in the Netherlands decided to merge, and with that, the first modern company in the world was born. Its name is super long and really hard to pronounce, so we know it simply as VOC, the Dutch East India Company. This company was trading with a region called the East Indies. Today, that would be Indonesia, Malaysia, and the surrounding islands, the places where massive trade used to happen. Now, at first glance, VOC might look like a normal company like any other, but the real truth is this. VOC was not a company. VOC was a monster that worked like a government and had the same authority. They had many warships, their own armies, fortresses in many parts of the world, and if necessary, they even captured cities. They were basically like an established country, but the real turning point was this. The first thing VOC introduced into history was this. Even ordinary working people could make money. Just imagine, a farmer, a merchant, or a craftsman, as long as they had money, could buy VOC shares, and as the company grew, they would earn money. This was the very beginning of the investment system. Now, it wasn't only landowners who were considered rich. Wealth was revolving around this word called the market. Of course, for such a huge company to survive, it couldn't rely only on merchants.
There also had to be strong political support behind it. And this is exactly where the House of Orange comes into the story. The House of Orange was one of the leading names in the Netherlands, but the interesting part is this. There was no kingdom ruling. There were no throne games, so there was no such thing as a royal ruling system in the family. But the rich merchants in Amsterdam wanted to block this family, and the Spaniards wanted to completely destroy them. With so many enemies, the family was stuck, and they had to think and make a decision. Either they would disappear into history, or they would adapt to this new system that was forming. The House of Orange, with an unbelievable move, instead of dealing with the old system of controlling land and gaining titles, they turned to a new rising power: money. They didn't have the intention to directly conquer VOC, but they became one of its most important supporters, and most importantly, they invested their entire future into the system, despite all the dangers, because they saw something clearly. The thing that determines power is no longer the crown in their minds. It's capital. And years later, this became official. Two young princes
Of Orange, William IV and William V became the heads of both VOC and the West India Company. So the House of Orange became the richest and most powerful dynasty in Europe. But they didn't achieve the success by cutting or fighting. They achieved it with their minds and with the system they chose: the market. In other words, through stock profits. VOC grew so much that after a certain point, it stopped being just a company. It became a superpower with an army, ruling cities and making agreements whenever necessary. At its peak, the value of VOC in today's money was exactly $7.9 trillion. Fitting that amount of money into a room is not that easy. Even the biggest company you can think of today, Microsoft, is worth only half of that. During the VOC era, around 1 million people migrated to Asia. They didn't go there for fun. They weren't messengers. They were people who worked for VOC. Sailors, soldiers, accountants, merchants, all of them were working for this giant company. And the company's goal was clear and simple: to own the spice trade. The place where VOC was strongest was the East Indies. In 1619, they conquered Jakarta and renamed it Batavia. Batavia became the company's headquarters in Asia. This is why Indonesia is still under Dutch influence today. The languages, the food, the buildings, and many other things. The main reason VOC reached such a peak was not military power. The main reason was the financial system. VOC shares were open to the public for the first time. It made the world's first IPO. People bought shares for the first time. Those shares started changing hands constantly. And this event created the foundation of the stock market, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. Even more interesting things happened there. People didn't just buy shares. They started making huge profits. They started betting on how much the shares would be worth tomorrow. The birth of modern Wall Street happened exactly here. But people started thinking deeper. What if the company goes bankrupt and disappears? The Dutch found a solution for that too. A solution under limited liability, meaning the money you invested could be lost, but nothing would happen to your house, your car, or your family. Because of this, trust in the company was extremely high. Later, England adopted and built this system too. And the most interesting thing is that someone from the House of Orange went there as well. William of Orange. In 1688, while England was going through a political crisis, William went to England. This journey was remembered in history as the Glorious Revolution. William and his wife Mary were placed at the head of the English monarchy. William didn't just become king. He brought the Dutch financial system directly into England. He helped establish the Bank of England. Government bonds emerged. A public credit system was built for people and companies. In other words, England became a direct copy of the Netherlands. And this event reached all the way to America. In 1609, the Dutch reached the New York harbor. In 1624, New Amsterdam was built. But later, the British captured the city, changed its name, and made it New York. But the Dutch left their system and trade structure exactly as it was, because the established system worked perfectly. Years later, this system created the foundation that would turn New York into the financial capital of the world. And eventually, VOC collapsed. In the late 1700s, the company melted away because of corruption. Rivals became stronger. Expenses increased even more. In 1796, the Dutch government took the company under its control. But the systems VOC left behind never ended. On the contrary, the corporate systems we use today, the way the stock market operates, the investment model, all of it exists the way VOC created it. Today, the Netherlands is not the ruler of the seas. But in this sector, it is still at the top. And the House of Orange is still alive. The crown may be a symbolic object, but the capital connections they built are still extremely strong and powerful. Their partnerships with companies like Shell and large investment institutions still continue. But let's not forget this. VOC didn't only create a stock market revolution. Unfortunately, it also created major colonization and massacres. For example, the massacres in the Banda Islands, the executions that happened in Ambon, the terrible attacks against the Chinese people in Batavia, and forced labor like slavery. VOC's wealth actually rose through the deaths and suffering of many people. And the question this entire scenario and story leaves in our minds is this: if today's system, the markets, have taken the power of kings, then who is the ruler of the market? If the crown has become invisible, how are we supposed to see who the real king is? Come on, let's discuss this question in the comments. Don't forget to like my video, and if you want more videos like this, don't forget to follow. Thank you. See you.